Welcome to this lecture. Let me just bring you back. What we're doing here is running a course on formal training that consists the audio production, mostly electronic music production, which has based on the concept of electronic music or electronic mixing, etc. So we have students all the way from classical to techno. And we've actually, in this course, we've had two students who are actually on your label now. So it's a great thing. I think we're doing a good thing there. And as part of the course, we're also inviting people to lecture on various subjects from electronic design to music theory, and there you go, label management tonight. I'll take a brief moment to introduce Alia. Is an extremely hardworking guy. He was extremely hardworking when we were in our class. Definitely, really looking up to the future. He's running his label. He's working with artists all the time. He's managing, he's putting out music, he's mastering, he's DJing. He's currently based in Barcelona. The label is originally from Belgium because Alia is from Belgium. Shouldn't say more than that. I'll leave it up to you. So Alia, just take the floor.
I'm very happy to do that for you guys. You're doing an incredible job for Kino ARMATA. And I'm so pleased to have you and try to help you and your students as well, because as Toton knows, we have been there together as well. So we know exactly what it feels. With experience, with time, there's a lot of things to process as well as a producer, DJ, artist, no matter what you really want to achieve. Yeah, I'm more than happy to help you guys to explain you how I work on my label, and of course, well, explaining you a few things about different processes depending on what you want to achieve as an artist. And of course, after, I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. It's very important to make you understand the process of an artist, depending on what he wants, because most of the artists nowadays want to be discovered, to show the products instead of trying to market as much as possible. We live in a world where the web is constantly pushing us to market ourselves. Now we're in a world of influencers. At some point, you have to sell yourself, right? To be able to simply show you products on the market. So it's quite tricky. It will be more interesting to show you what I believe, as I've seen in my experience as an artist, as a producer, remixer, as a manager of a label. First thing and the most important thing is your production skills. You're in a school of audio engineering. You will never be able to be in that school all your life. It's important that you keep your production skill going as long as you can. Stay hungry and never lose your track of productions, because maybe at some point, we're talking about now, but maybe at some point, who knows, you're an artist, you become eventually touring around the world, who knows, or any country, and then with the parties and everything, you lose track of producing. So I just want to tell you something very important here, is that production skills makes you a full-time artist job. If you don't have your production skills, unfortunately, you're losing your full-time artist. As an artist, as a guitarist, as an instrumentist, you always have to go to the studio, always have to use specific tools to achieve over creative content output, of which you actually creating yourself. So you're hungry for it. You might be hungry now, but who knows, maybe you won't be hungry in 5, 10 years, 15 years. Life is changing. Some people get married, get kids. It's normal. It's part of the life. If it's something that you really want, you have to focus on that and chase it. And this, I think, on the long term is the most important thing. As much content you have, as much content you created, as much you can filter your content and put it out there. This is the first key point, but it's the most important thing. So never lose this, never forget this. Always perfecting your production skills. You're gonna be producing behind your computer with your consoles. There's always new equipment coming out, new consoles coming out, new sequencers, new programs. You always have to be focused on what's trending, what's on the market, being able to use it, learn it, and play with it, and being able to produce with it as well. So don't be afraid to try new things. This is how you will get discovered on the long term. As much content you have, as more creative you are with new tools, quality, not quantity. Obviously going to produce a lot, right? When you sending demos, try not to send 20 or 30 tracks. It's always better for you to send maybe your 3 best tracks, right? So it's important to filter your music. For example, the Beatles, they had 80 songs ready before their first album came out. On their first album, there were like around 10 tracks. How many other tracks have not been published? A lot of producers, a lot of managers were related to this project back then. Now you're on your own. You need to be able to produce much and then be able to filter it to get the best quality of your content, but maybe the rest of the quantity will be a certain other quality for someone else. Meaning that you might be able to send 3 specific tracks with a certain quality of specific genre to one label and maybe 3 others to another. The more time you're producing, the more content you have, and you forget about the content. You store it on a hard drive and then it never comes out. Where you've produced a track, you think it's a good track, but then when you listen to it later, you're not satisfied anymore. Some people don't work harder on these tracks and they put it on their hard drives and leave it for eventually another week, another month, another year, and then the track is basically lost and at some point you forget. Have some time to be able to reflect on what you've produced the last weeks, the last months. Have some milestones to be able to go back to your projects, try to work on finish them. It's very important. You can ask someone else to produce with you as a featuring. Most of the things that you think that are good, try to finish them in that way. I know it's a very difficult factor, but most of the time it works. With hard work, this is what pays off. If you listen to all the great releases, for example, of techno music, it's people that have been working hard on the timeline for months and months and months. Like they will do like any post-production for any film until it's perfect, right? Or until it has a certain level where you can say, okay, this can be released right now. You have some good feedback, thumbs up. If we're talking about electronic music more specifically, it has to get impact. I remember this track, it's a very commercial by Megan Trainor. I don't know if you know it, it's called About That Bass. So about that bass, no treble. So this kind of example is what I mean. The philosophy you need to understand is that you need to have some bass in it. It has to hit, it has to impress people. When it hits in the club, it has to hit hard. Always be careful in editing and mixing your bass with a kick. As more as you DJ, if you're producing, you want to get discovery DJing as well, or you're playing with your console live, you have to understand your crowd. So some people will follow you, right? They will like a certain track. You're like, oh, this is amazing. I really like this track. And you're like, yeah, it's not that great. But give value to this, because when someone hears that, they follow you. They will start to follow you. So this is a key aspect. So it's something not to forget. Like obviously you will get mixed with emotions, but it's these details might trigger you to get away and get a certain crowd. This is very important to understand your crowd when you mix. To learn about marketing and music business as much as you can. Of course, labels are there to help you if you're signed for it, but if not, you're on your own. You need to learn marketing no matter what. So never underestimate the importance of the music business as a producer. Many artists, instrumentists, vocalists I've met that are over their 40s, they regret that they haven't pursued any music business career. This is 80% of the work of a release. 20% is not even the production, maybe 10 to 15%. It's always important to know exactly what's going on in the music industry, what types of contracts are getting signed. So obviously the internet is there for you. Try as much as possible to learn about these courses. When you party, avoid drugs and alcohol. On the long term, it's always good to party. At the end of the day, on the long term, artists that stay focused are the ones that are still in the industry. I've been at the ADE in Amsterdam talking with artists that were actually explaining how bad they lost their career path because of drugs and alcohol. They're trying to bring awareness to tell people to avoid that as much as possible and keep clean if they really want to pursue the dreams, because this is really the worst thing that can happen to you, is fall into alcohol and drugs with party too much and then you truly forget about your milestones. And that's just a shame, because you've spent so much time dreaming, so much time producing. Embrace new forms, new tools, new equipment. You playing with CDJs, right? With Pioneer, you know the basics because you got this. You have this in all clubs, right? You're playing with CDJs. Try to find new forms of performance. What I mean by that is controllerism. So this is the madness, right? Always talking about knobs and faders in live. Try to play them with Ableton Live, or with the new Logic Pro that came out that also has some live performance tools. It's important to be as creative as possible. I haven't even seen one artist performing with the same setup. All these artists that perform live, they always have a very specific setup, like their own original setup. Every performance is so different, so that makes it so great. Think out of the box, embrace new forms of playing around. Know your sequencer, know your tools, and know your references. References are very important. In production, you always need to have a reference. It's good to be creative on your own, but if you have 3 references on like some tracks that you listened recently, use them. Put them in your timeline, not like just listen, put them on timeline, analyze the wave, right? Analyze the structure, analyze everything. Sometimes people even cut into it, they sample it, they add something on it, remove the sample. And that means that they have something creative based on a reference. Mixing engineers, mastering engineers always use references as well. So if they need to mix or master a techno track, they will find a good mix or a good mastering of a techno track and base themselves on that. That's why great engineers do. Use references all the time, no matter if it's for the creative bit, for the mixing, or for the mastering, all right? If you're working with Logic Pro, Pro Tools, Cubase, Nuendo, Ableton Live, you definitely need to know your tools. The more you know about these tools, the better you become a master at your work. Key point there. Be creative with vocals. Certain genres that are very underground, right? You say like, no, I'm not gonna record any vocals. What do I need vocals for? Think about it. Like any track that you listen, any techno track you listen on Spotify nowadays, there is some bit of vocals in it and you might not even understand it. It can be turned into effects, simple melody. It can be simply a word as long as it comes from the mouth of someone. Never underestimate the power of vocals. Never. Compression is very subjective to the ear of each one. It might be the most difficult thing to do in music production. There's one compression called parallel compression. So you have one signal, you send it to a bus and you make a certain compression, strong compression, and most of the parallel compression presets will be very strong, like maybe minus 32, minus 35 threshold of dB, right? Very squashed, but that's easy because you have the preset. What it does actually boost your signal more than the rest of your tracks. So let's say you have a certain synthesizer that you want to stand out, or vocals that want to stand out. Always use parallel compression on the buses that you want to stand out. So that's very easy. So you don't need to know so much about compression. You can apply parallel compression to your drums, parallel compression to the bass, and parallel compression to one of the synths. And you understand that some elements will come out in your mix, and that's actually what makes it stand out. The easiest advice is not to use compression at all, but only use parallel compression on the buses that require them to stand out, like the drums or the bass, or just a synth. Most of the times, drums are always parallel compressed. Parallel compression is always applied on drums. Obviously, maybe for a band, but when we're talking about electronic dance music, techno and everything, parallel compression is very heavy. Sometimes only on the kick, at least on the kick, and also sometimes applied on the whole drums, right? Digital mastering, what is it? It's mastering in the box. All the other tracks that you're playing on your CDJs are mastered already. And if you play your track and you want to try it out before sending it to mastering, you need to apply digital mastering, right? You need to apply some minimized form of mastering, a form of equalization, compression, and limitation. So these are the 3 processes in mastering in general. It can go way farther than that. Talking about passive equalization, multi-band compressions, all sorts of mid-side equalizations. If you just apply equalization, a small compression on your whole track, and then boost your track maybe 3 or 6 dB, at least you get the level of your other CDJ tracks. You still want to get creative and understand some people want to stay in their world and send it for mixing and mastering, but it's important to know the minimum out of it to be able to test your track. So remixes, no matter if they are official, unofficial, use it as extra content online, right? For your SEO, for advertisement. So easy to send a track of someone you've remixed his track. It's always good to have a bunch of remixes and don't be afraid to sample. It's just for live purpose. It's not to publish. Be familiar with mixtapes and podcasts. Spotify has allowed it to create podcasts for DJs. Apple Music is getting there as well. So it's very important that you create your own podcasts every 2 or 3 months. It's already enough for you to have more content to push it to any promoter, any agency, any other DJ. Everyone's interested in listening to your track, to your podcast. Networking. Networking means go out as much as possible, meet people at events, at radio, at clubs, at agencies, go and see them on location, try to have meetings with them, try to talk, go to exhibitions. It's important that you create your own contacts. We're living in a world where everyone thinks everything works with emails and mobile phone and telephones. It's wrong. You're trying to send emails to people you don't know. They never answer to you, or they might answer you and tell you, let me get back to you, and then they never do. Then you have to ask them again and again, and at the end, there's no big output. But if you meet the people, it changes everything. Play for free as much as you can. Don't try to make money out of it. Do it for your passion. Meet even more people. People will see you as a DJ and you will already referenced as a DJ in a certain club. Another thing also is to make DJ swaps, right? If you're becoming a resident in the club, let's say you play for free, they invite some DJs. You meet more DJs. If these people are residents for other club, try to make a swap. They're always looking for more artists. When you enter the world of DJing, a certain DJ that plays in the next city club, you say, look, I will book you another time. If you want, we'll talk to the manager together. If you want me, we can arrange 2 other bookings here and 2 other bookings, you and me in your club. And they're always looking for things like that. So it's part of networking, of course. Always talk to the DJs before or after you. Even if it's a different genre, it doesn't change it. If you promote your own nights, you have definitely more chances to book your own DJs. You get full access. If you join a DJ collective, obviously you think about yourself as an artist, right? You're thinking about, let's say, push your artist career as far as you can. If you push more people together as friends, you get discovered way faster. Imagine if you are 5-6 DJs. Everyone will push everyone together. Word of mouth with more people creates trends, creates people talking, creates about this new DJ collective. And if you create your own videos as a DJ collective, live streamings, or you film even your events that you are promoting, try to promote with other people. You have definitely more chances than if you promote alone. I would have to say that trying to promote alone is almost impossible. You definitely need collaboration with people. If they are the friends, even better, because you laugh, you have a good time, you're out there, play for fun, talk to other DJs. If you do it that way, obviously you have more chances, right? If you promote your own nights, it's important to keep a very good contact with the promoters, because the more promoters you know, the more you can relate to them and work with them around a certain city, around different cities, around a country, around different countries. Another key point is obviously use demos. I'm not going to gain too much in this. How to send demos. You have to promote yourself right. That means you have to be presentable if you send a demo. It's also like the way labels want you to send demos. Private SoundCloud links, prepare individual email scripts. So a certain email that you write for this label, another email that you wrote for another label. Keep your information straight to the point. Nothing much, just a bit of information of yourself. Let's say you have new content for the next year, you're looking for a new label. They will listen for sure at some point. You obviously need to wait maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get an answer. Try to do that as much as you can with many different labels. Each label is different, they work in a different way. A good thing, and that's what we do as well, trying to look at record labels that create their own nights. If you release a certain track, it would be nice to have presentation. Record labels that do their own showcases, they create their own events. It's always better to sign on these labels, obviously. So these are the key labels that you might have to look at first. The other things that might be less important but still good to have, I know these are old-fashioned, but it's always good to have a business card no matter what. Preparation is the lucky bit of your work. Key factor. USB keys. On a USB you can put anything you want. Put a few tracks on that, a description yourself, like a biography, a few photos, a few mixes. You can buy 50 USB keys for maybe 5 to 10 euros on Amazon, right? And it's physical. DJs, artists, promoters like it. They like physical things. They like gifts. Obviously, DJs, they receive a lot of DJ keys, So be creative as well there. Like maybe just paste something on the USB key, make a decoration so it stands out of other USB keys. And that might be the most important thing with the networking bits. Don't be afraid to brand yourself. You don't need to sell yourself, right? But if you create small amount of content, but good content, and filter your content as well at some point, and be as authentic as you can, you definitely make an impact. It's always good to have a website to generate the traffic on your platform to see exactly who is watching you, who's listening to your music, who's reading your information. A lot of things are changing, platforms are changing, but it's always good to have a website. Advertising as well. It's part of the game. I'm talking about Google Ads, setting advertisement to Resident Advisor. Some platforms are cheap, some bloggers as well. It's all about money nowadays, it's important. But if you're really looking forward to become what you want to become, you will push yourself into advertising as well. There we're talking about organization a lot. Good organization, good planification, know your targets, know how to achieve them, because at the end, this is the most important thing. You need to stay focused on your music production. So as I mentioned before, never forget to be hungry. Keep yourself organized, your contacts, your weekly schedules. Never have monthly schedule. Have weekly schedules, like you have a journal. There you'll know exactly at what time you need to do what. So this is very important for anybody, really. Like not just us as producers, artists. Use social media. As I mentioned before, we are in a world of influencers. Try to be as authentic as possible. That's all I have to say there. It's important to use social media in general and know which one to use. At the end, it's just a tool, nothing else. The other factor is also obviously avoid losing yourself in the social media. So avoid to read too many comments, of people, what they think about it. It's great to comment and to reply, to interact with your scene, with your crowd and everything, with your users. It's important for some things to have some presence, but avoid drowning yourself in these social media and think that social media is the game of today. Stay focused on your production. This is the most important part. Your contacts, your schedules, your weekly schedules, your planning, your goals, your targets, these are the most important. Nothing else. Never put something else in front of your targets. If you cannot do it yourself, try someone else to do it for you. Get a manager, get a booker. It might be your best friend, your sister, your brother, your parents. It's important at some point to have a booking agent, because bookings are very important. It's the agent that will actually arrange all the bookings for you. And that's a very important job for your artist career, because doing it yourself is very difficult. Or pretend someone to be your booking agent. It's always good to have a person of contact. If someone wants to contact you or someone needs to contact someone else for a booking, it's always better that someone else does it for you, no matter who it is. Any label is actually showing you if they want, first of all, if they welcome demo submissions and in what form, right? Just look at it on a website. And if it's not written, well, they might not look for demos. Simple as that. Know what label does what, if they allow for you to send demo submission, and prepare the material correctly for each label separately. You need to know that every label are looking for a specific type of artists. Know that you have artists that are signed in the catalog that are similar to you. Similar music, similar type of style. You have to understand as well that labels receive a tons of material. Labels are very specific on the artists. You have to stay sharp, clear information, good content, and address yourself properly to the specific label. Like, don't try to send the same email to 50 to 100 different labels. That won't work. They will see that the same content has been already listened by other labels, because you can see the player on SoundCloud. So you need to upload a track specifically for each label. Genre specific, what types of artists are signed, and analyze the catalog, right? Analyze the music. You listen to the catalog and you say, like, you know what, I'm going to do something just like this. You might have more chances that way, instead of just doing your own material and then just sending it to a bunch of labels separately. So it's always good to work directly. Let's say, like, I'm going to focus on one label. I'm going to try to do this type of music, this type of release. Not copy too much, obviously, but like be creative. But still, that might work. And you don't want to play this game because you want to be creative, and I totally understand. But this might help you the next year or 2 years. Your biography will be already signed on 3 more labels, just because you have focused on a certain label specifically. Develop your skills. And I'm not just talking about production skills. I mentioned also music, business skills. Keep on learning new things, keep on learning new industries. Don't be afraid of other genres either. No matter what, you always learn from people. The last thing I can advise you is try to be different. You won't lose anything to be creative, but different. Because a lot of people try to be creative, but still follow the pattern of techno, of underground music. Be different means doing something that's completely different. Think out of the box. That's all I have to say. All right, thank you very much.
It was a great talk. Thank you. It was quite mind and eye-opening.